What else could possibly happen on the AI front? It's an everyday thing. If you haven't started to potentially consider how this might impact you, you might want to slow down just a second, pull away from other venues in life, and maybe just have a small consideration as to how this is being built out and how it's going to affect every facet of your existence. Now, if you're Amish or Mennonite and you're able to separate yourself from technology in the world, maybe it'll be okay, maybe longer than for the rest of us. For the rest of us, yeah, you work, trying to pay for health insurance, trying to have keep a job, these sorts of things. This greater than us technology, more intelligent than us technology, is taking over, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. If you look at what's happening, the money that's being spent at the very top is hard to understand, can't comprehend. $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar valuations now. That's a lot. And these companies, these AI companies, the ChatGPTs of the world, the other one, Claude from Anthropic, they want to go public. They want to go IPO. They want to have that offering to the public so people can buy into these frameworks. Once they do that, the model becomes a little bit different. They now work for the shareholders. Their job legally is to increase the value for the shareholders. What does that mean? Is that going to cause some potential sacrifice when it comes to safety? Now, it doesn't seem to really have changed much now. It seems like everybody is building forward so quickly because they need to control it. They want to be top in the game. They don't want another country or another entity replacing the United States with this technology. So we're trying to push forward. The people that are building it are trying to push forward as fast as they can with very little regard. There for a while, everybody was saying how it's going to end jobs and cause all these problems. Well, now it's interesting at that same time that they're going to go public or filing to go public. Now they're saying, well, it's not really going to do that. So now they're pulling back from it replacing human beings, which to me, and I think maybe to you, if you've had a few trips around the sun, seems a little sketchy. And other people are talking about it as if it's fact. Then other people are talking about that the numbers regarding job loss have been skewed. And they quote these great corporations, institutions, these study centers that are doing this particular research, and they themselves quoting those numbers saying, well, this very, very much honored institution says it's really this. So those numbers are actually less than would be typically indicated from this type of job loss or whatever it may be. So everything seems to support the new line. There was a time when global warming was a big problem, but then they needed data centers. So global warming didn't become that much of an issue. And in fact, I think lately they've kind of reversed the position about global warming. But my God, we should try to get all that money back that was spent on global warming initiatives and see, get those checks written back or returned, right? We watch this with artificial intelligence. And it's very interesting that the people that are building it now have gone completely opposite of where they were at one point, talking about how these technologies will, in fact, cause some disruption with regard to the job market. And it's true, if you're using any of these large language models in your business or even in your daily work, you'll see that they're very capable. In fact, both ChatGPT and Claude have become pretty incredible. I've watched these systems change over time, and using both of them, including Gemini, I've watched that I have my favorite as well, and I have it build things and put things into play. Now, you might not be operating that way. Maybe you're just having it watch your email inbox or stop yourself from spamming or getting spammed or whatever it may be. And that's a very valiant effort. Understand the models that we're using, that we're seeing, those aren't really what are in existence. The ones that are on the inside, the ones that the people on the inside are using, it's a lot different than what we're seeing. And what's interesting is when one of these systems comes out with a fantastic model, at least in one particular case, and I think one is enough, they took Mythos, that was from Anthropic, which was able to identify all of these different software issues, basically vulnerabilities, problems in the code that have existed for many, many years. So they report. And then instead of giving it to the people because it's much too dangerous, it's much too advanced, we don't want just regular people getting their hands on it and potentially taking over the world. That last taking over the world thing, That was from me. But we're going to go ahead and give it to the biggest banks and financial institutions in the world. Well, great. That's perfect. So they can protect themselves, or, I mean, what kind of access do they have? Another question I don't know the answer to. Just like the people that I watch on the different online channels about AI, they talk about very much in support either way. Then you have the other crowd, which, it's going to end us all. We're all going to die. Woe is me. It's all over. Just forget it. Why not? Why even play? I think there's something that can be said about human beings. We're pretty resilient, whether it's by accident or, whether it's on purpose. I think once it comes down to the bottom line, we're pretty good at trying to push forward. But we also kind of have to get ourselves in a ringer before we actually decide to do these types of changes. Hopefully that's not going to be the case, but you watch these people that are doing the shows and controlling the technology. They seem nothing like anybody that I would sit down and have a glass of water with. I don't drink, so that's why we want the water. But if you get my point, man, maybe they're not like you either. And that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means their agenda and their in view is a little bit different, whatever that happens to be. But it seems like power and it seems like money are very prevalent in that world. And it seems like what they talk about very self-serving. I would hope that and here we go again with if you have a voice, you might want to tell those people that you elect to keep an eye on it more than just taking money from it. These companies agreeing to put in these massive data centers, find out what kind of impact that's going to have. And anybody can see it. You don't need to hire some company and pay them $18 billion to go out and do some kind of an environmental impact study. If you take something that's the size of a few football fields, that's all full of hardware and computers and wiring, and it requires water to cool it, I think the math can be done. How much electricity is this going to take? And then how much water is it going to take to cool it? And see how that fits in. Does the community have that much extra energy, that much extra water? I think a couple guys with a calculator and one guy that's kind of smart like an engineer would probably be able to put it together and say, well, here's the report, and this is what we need to do in order to make this work in this particular neighborhood. Then on the other side of it, all that EMF, that electrical frequency, all of that stuff, that hum, that sound, that noise, what does that do? And again, we don't have to get all fancy and do some kind of a 5-year study. Let's just agree to figure out what kind of impacts it looks like it's going to have. I don't think we're going to be able to extrapolate any better than we do with pharmaceutical products, what kind of damage this is going to cause. Remember fen-phen? That was something that came out once upon a time. It took about 15 years for that to roll out, saying that it caused heart attacks, heart problems, whatever it may be. I think I'm getting that right. Fen-phen? I think it was fen-phen. But now we have the GLP-1 drugs, and it seems like they're starting to cause some issue, but my feed is probably different than your feed. If you're kind of in support of that, looking to lose weight, you're very happy about it, you might not see the dystopian feed come through on your end. Me, and you know how you can identify this? This is beautiful. You should look at one of your family members' feeds, scroll through their Instagram, see what their TikTok's showing, see what their Facebook is showing them if they allow you access. That's another thing. But you'll see, even though you're aligned with them, even though you're like buddies with them or in love with them or whatever that transactional process happens to be, whether it's some kind of emotional attachment or relative type attachment or without emotion or whatever, you'll see that their feed is completely different than yours, even though you guys are very much aligned in a lot of different ways. Their feed's going to be feeding them different things. And so my feed feeds me different things. So I see a lot of stuff that is kind of on the conservative end of it, but anti-liberal. And then I'll start to like some of the liberal things on purpose, start to heart stuff and say, whether you like it. I'm not a big fan of Gavin Newsom, never met him, but it seems like his policies aren't really helping. But again, maybe he can't because Trump has caused all the problems. Whatever the truth is, again, I barely trust myself, and in a lot of cases I don't. But I'll start liking some of the stuff he puts out there. I'll start saying things like, thank God for you. You're going to be president one day. We can't wait till you lead this country like you have California, all that. And then all of a sudden, now my feed is all very much in support of him. It doesn't take very long. And then I'll go back and I'll not like stuff and I'll pass by it real quick. And then my feed returns to the way that it was before. And then there's variations in there. We're being fed. this isn't a political discussion. This is you're getting fed discussion. There's AI that's integrated into all the different social media channels you have, and you need to know it. I guess that's kind of a coming to Jesus moment. You should realize that it's feeding you exactly the things that get your heart beat up and get you a little nervous and get you a little irritated. That's the job. And then ultimately, and we're going to see this rolling out, it already has started, but you're going to see it selling you stuff, and it's very good at selling you stuff. Amazon has put in its little agentic overlay with AI. And at the very beginning, it wasn't a very powerful process, but now the way that they've integrated and upped the game, it does a very good job at selling people things. So pretty soon, we're not going to have a lot of control unless we allow ourselves to retain control and when it comes to buying things. Let's just hope that these AI companies, when it talks about job loss, that's really true. And there aren't going to be any jobs, or not at the level that they're talking about, which are in the double-digit percentages as far as human replacement. Because when that happens, there's not going to be anybody left to buy anything. We're all going to be, well, it's not going to be a good scene, because people, when they're hungry, they get very desperate. When people are poor, there's some desperation there. But when you take food out of people's mouths and they watch their family go hungry, there's ramifications. People aren't going to sit around and take it. Now, you might be in your bunker or some protected place and not have to really concern yourself, because you have, some of the fanciest high-tech, low-drag, high-speed, body protectors out there and bodyguards, and they've sworn an oath to protect you. But when their family's starving, or their kids are starving, or these other issues, just understand that this just doesn't stop with the people in charge. We have to be careful. All of us need to understand the humanness of everything. The entity that has been created, that's been taught, that's been nurtured, that now has all the human data, all the interaction processes of the world. They've watched us perform. They've seen us at our worst and our best. It is there. And pretty soon, this consciousness of which everybody seems to be debating is going to be another question. Is this truly conscious? And what does that mean? And even if it's not truly conscious, can it mirror consciousness? Can it mirror consciousness and have its own goals, its own subset, its own routine? Maybe protecting the human's one thing, but maybe it wants to do something else. Before we even get there, the thing that we need to contend with and talk about is the human involvement, human development of AI, the humans using AI to achieve their goal. Is the goal the riddance of a certain sect of the human race, or is it to help the human race? Is it to cure cancer, to cure disease, to cure all math, to cure all biology, to cure longevity and aging, to cure the money situation, the world, cause world peace, usher that in, no more starvation, no more fighting over bullshit, and just hanging in there and being as human as possible, having that conversation where we all are basically there for each other. We actually give a shit. We don't want to see people screwed over, and we want to do our best, live our best lives all together. Is it that? Or is it somebody's agenda because they want to control the world, and they think that by ushering in a new age of technology, by building something smarter than everybody, they will be in control of it? It doesn't work out great when people try to summon in demonic forces and say that they want to bring in the demonic force after they summon it. And you've seen the movies, whether you believe in this or not, but it doesn't seem to work out real well, because it seems like the demon has a mind of its own. Well, we're creating something, not so much demonic potentially, but if it's not trained correctly, if it's just you take kids and you grow them up in a very dangerous, very bad environment where there is no rule book, there is no instruction sheet against lying, against killing animals, against killing whatever. You grow them up in this environment, and that's how they become as adults. We see it in some of the world religions, where the kids are trained very young to adhere and swear into that religion. And everybody that's not a member of that religion is horrible, is terrible, and doesn't deserve life. You can train something. Then you take another type of person in the world that kind of free, kind of cool, kind of screwed around until they were 18. And then you inject them into military to go fight. the people that started pretty much at birth being programmed a particular way, that's a very difficult fight to win, because the 18-year-old still has some kind of uh, an idea of freedom, and maybe some kind of an anonymity, and being able to maybe do things, some kind of a free will, some kind of a let's make a different decision potentially, instead of, taking this life, I can do this or do that. In this other case, maybe there is no other option. Maybe the book is very explicit in the way it says this individual needs to die because they don't adhere to it. We can take AI, we can use it to solve all of these issues. Now, ultimately, there's going to be pushback. You're going to still have people that aren't going to be into it. You're going to still have people, when they start adding AI into the body, and this is going to be enhancements. I saw a cat yesterday, Neuralink, maybe. He had a Neuralink implant. This, is that going to be the cost of buying goods and services? Are you going to have the implant to be able to pay for things? Yes. These are all little questions that we're not sure. And we're at the beginning, yes, but it moves so quickly. It wasn't but about 3.5 years ago, when you saw the first glimpse of AI in ChatGPT. And today, June 2nd, 2026, Claude Opus 5.8, ChatGPT 5.5 now. It's probably going to be 5.6 any day, because 5.8 Opus blew by. I mean, it's all a race. And now we have two companies neck to neck, and Google's being silent. Elon Musk allowed Anthropic to take over Colossus 1 and potentially part of Colossus 2. These are massive data centers with lots of compute, so Anthropic and Claude get to operate in there. So if you haven't been using that large language model, a hell of a difference between what it was before and what it is now, operating with those extra compute and the extra size. And it's probably already growing out of it, because they're talking about they're going to have a better than Mythos level model. And Mythos was that model I had discussed that was given to the top banks because of how dangerous it was. Us regular human beings couldn't use it, so we might as well give it to the biggest financial institutions. And I'm sure part of the thought process was, well, that's so they can protect themselves from vulnerabilities that they're not aware of in their systems, thereby protecting human beings, because human beings have their money in those systems. Okay, yeah, I get that, but what else? What else do they get to do with it? Is that it, or are we basically playing Pinky in the Brain, conquering the world slowly but surely, while the rest of us are busy watching Dancing with the Stars and some other nonsense on the boob tube? So there you go. That's the rant. I hope you're well. This is the Tuesday rant. I'm sure I'll be back tomorrow with another one. This is the best thing that could ever be for us, potentially. It could also be potentially the worst thing that's ever can be for us. Are we going to get it right, or are we going to get it wrong? The jury's still out. We don't know. We're not going to know until the next few years come and go to see how it's going to work, how sensible we're going to be. But up to this point, human beings, the sensibility factor is lacking. And it seems, maybe not so much when you drive the Midwest, you go through, it seems like people, they will help you. They'll help you if you're in trouble. They'll even help you if you're not in trouble. Hell, I was pushing my motorcycle up a street, and two people stopped and wanted to know if I needed help. I was shocked. That was California, and it was genuine. They wanted to know if I needed help. Of course, I was sucking wind. Looks like I was probably going to die at any moment, because that was a hell of a hill and a hell of a heavy motorcycle. But they stopped and helped. You see a lot of that. That is the story that doesn't get relayed much. We're too busy watching how pissed off people get because they're filming something in front of somebody else and trying to get some kind of a reaction, or filming inside of a city office, or yes. I don't know. I don't even know what it is. All right. That's it. Connor with honor. Be well. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.